How sad that someone would feel like they needed to vandalize a church.
The doors were closed on an LDS meeting house in Perry after a break-in on Saturday. We get a look inside at the thousands of dollars worth of damage that was left behind.
Still under the grips of this very cold air, do we see any relief in sight and get back into the 50s here along the Wasatch Front? I'll let you know in the forecast.
Some people have ideas to restore an old Corvette in their garage. Some people have ideas to start a band with their buddies. I one day had the idea to just walk for a really long time.
And after 2 years, a Provo man who has been walking across America from coast to coast has finally completed his journey. We'll introduce you to him.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News Live at 6 starts now.
Police in the town of Perry are investigating a break-in that left extensive damage inside a local meeting house for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The damage so extensive it forced today's meetings to be canceled. Thanks so much for joining us tonight after some exciting football. I'm Amy Nay. Brian has the night off. Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with the first council in the Perry State presidency about the vandalism and how it impacted them.
I thought it would probably be more than one person.
Scott Nelson is a member of the Perry 7th Ward, coming to this LDS meeting house since 1979.
I have never heard of anything happening at this building or in any Perry building.
Nelson says he woke up Sunday morning preparing to come here at noon before his bishop emailed their members to let them know the meeting house had been vandalized.
How sad that someone would feel like they needed to vandalize a church.
Chris Southwick, the first counselor of the Perry State presidency, says they believe someone or a group of people got inside the church through a back window sometime Saturday afternoon or evening.
They kind of just took over into the building and found glasses and plates and different things inside the building that they could break.
Southwick says they caused thousands of dollars worth of damage once they were inside.
Slashing some of the paintings or the pictures that were on the walls. They did damage one of the organs that was in the chapel and spread crackers throughout the chapel.
The extensive damage, Southwick says, caused the 3 wards that normally congregate here on Sunday to postpone their meetings, keeping everyone out for safety reasons while crews began work to clean up the mess that was left inside.
Feel, the love of the members that are here attending with us, and so these buildings are important to us.
Luckily, Southwick says nothing damaged inside is irreplaceable. However, those like Nelson, who've been coming here weekly for more than 40 years, are hoping to get some answers on why this incident took place.
I hope that they catch the individual or individuals who did this and find out why they would want to do something like that.
Well, Southwick tells me that restoration crews will be here throughout the rest of the day working to clean up and repair any of that damage inside. He says this incident is still under investigation right now by the Perry Police Department. If you have any information, you're urged to contact them. That number is 435-723-6461. In Perry, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Chris, thanks so much. A Salt Lake City woman, meantime, was killed in a climbing accident in Grand County this weekend. It happened yesterday afternoon. According to the Grand County Sheriff's Office, authorities from multiple agencies found the body of 21-year-old Emmeline Herbstritt, a canyoneering guide at Morning Glory Arch. She was pronounced dead at the scene. According to her Facebook profile, she was a former missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. She served in both Montreal and in Idaho Falls. Some news for you now out of Garfield County, and deputies are searching for this woman, 51-year-old Michelle Clark from Panguitch. She's also known as Michelle Partridge. The sheriff's office says she left her home in the early hours of November 4th and has not been seen or heard from since. She's 5 feet 5 inches tall, weighs approximately 130 pounds. She has green eyes and blonde hair. You're asked to call the Garfield County Sheriff's Office if you have any information on her whereabouts. Today at Fort Douglas, people came together this morning for the annual German Day of Remembrance. This is similar to Veterans Day for the United States and the United Kingdom's Remembrance Sunday. It's meant to honor those who have served in the armed forces, including the 41 German POWs from World Wars I and II who died in Utah, buried at Fort Douglas.
What we want to do is gather to remember the events of the past so that looking forward, we can do our part to ensure that all parts of the world, Utah, Germany, and everywhere in between, that our children and our children's children will be able to live in peace and prosperity.
Well, this event has been held in Utah every year since 1977. A new exhibit being built at the Leonardo this weekend, just in time for the holiday season. Are you ready for this? Gingerbread Lane has been running since 1994 and has been traveling all throughout the East Coast all this time. Look at those candy hearts being put to good use. Now the artist and creator of this display is bringing it to the Leonardo Museum in Salt Lake City. The creator of Gingerbread Lane says it's their first time presenting the display this far out west.
I always loved the region. It's so family oriented out here. It's probably going to be a pretty big hit for that reason. And this facility is great. They promote fun learning, and we're really excited to partner with them.
Yeah, we love our gingerbread houses. We're told only one of 600 gingerbread houses broke during the cross-country drive over the past 2 days. That's pretty impressive. The exhibit opens to the public next Saturday, November 19th. They will close for the season on January 14th. Brett, can you believe it's that time already? Time to talk about Christmas right around the corner.
Right. Mother Nature helping us get into the feeling of Christmas, of course, with all the snow last week. Now we've got the cold. Currently, though, as we give you the last moments of daylight here with the view from our Ochre Mountain camera, looking west across the Tooele Valley. Yeah, we've got clear skies, as it has been clear with a little haze here across northern Utah, but there have been some areas that we've had some clouds and a few light snow showers. But here through northern Utah, we have not let go of the grips of that cold air. Highs today, upper 30s to low 40s through central Utah, only getting into the 30s. Again, on average, we should be in the low 50s for our afternoon highs here towards the middle of November. So these are temperatures we typically experience towards Christmas, but take a look right now. We're currently in the 20s in Logan, teens already in Evanston through central Utah, upper 20s, Milford through Cedar City. In that area earlier on, we had the clouds, we had some light snow showers as you move in between Beaver through Cedar City, moving over towards Panguitch, but those showers have dissipated as we'll be looking at clearing conditions pretty much statewide. So as we look at the forecast for tonight, mostly clear conditions. We're going to be looking at temperatures in the mid 20s as we're shaping up, as we'll be looking ahead. We're going to be having the cold, but we're trying to see if we have a better chance of snow. We'll talk about it coming up in just a bit.
Also coming up, it can be tough for military members who have to deploy, but who don't have someone who's willing to keep their pet. How you can help give these animals temporary shelter. And it was a big day for one Provo man today. He completed his walk across America. He's been trying to do this for some 2 years. We're going to introduce you to him when we come back. Welcome back. If you are looking to support active duty service members, there's something you may not know about that is an option, a way you can help. It involves taking care of some of the most important parts of a service member's life, their pets. Forrest Sanders shows us.
In here, there's so much to see, to hear, to smell. So many new friends to make. The fluffy to the less fluffy. But Becky Martino says Sugar doesn't get distracted. She knows exactly what she wants. Today at PetSense, Sugar's walking the aisles like she owns the place. Oh, sorry, I know. Personal space.
She does what she wants to do. She is the most unusual dog I think I've ever had.
Sugar's lived with Becky a full year and a half now, and will stay with her well into 2023. A pretty long time for a visit. You see, Sugar is the dog of an active duty service member with Fort Campbell when he needed to deploy for 2 years. He didn't know what to do about Sugar.
And I said, I don't care if it's 1 day or 10 years, it doesn't matter to me. I want to help you.
That Fort Campbell service member found Becky through the Dogs on Deployment nonprofit.
You are allowed to foster dogs or cats or sometimes other pets for a military member who is going to be deployed.
The Tractor Supply Foundation has given grants to the organization for years that go toward food and vet bills.
You got it. Now what you can do with it?
Marty Skoll-Jordan of the Tractor Supply Foundation.
We're helping them and taking care of who they love while they are deployed overseas.
Can you jump?
As for Becky, there's a deeper reason she wanted to take Sugar.
I served in the United States Air Force from 1993 to 2000.
Oh, there you go.
And Sugar's person, that Fort Campbell service member, thinks the world of Becky doing this.
She's so wonderful, her and her husband, and I couldn't have asked for a better set of fur baby parents to watch her.
Yeah, I consider her my granddog. I think a lot of people would do this if they had the opportunity. This is a way I can support our troops, and it's meaningful to me too to know that I can do it and to fall in love with a dog.
In Nashville, I'm Forrest Sanders reporting.
I love that. On the website dogsondeployment.org, you can search for pets in need of temporary homes right in your area. You can also register to be a pet boarder so service members will know to contact you in the future. For nearly 500 days, a Provo man named Isaiah Shields has been walking across America, pushing a cart with a sign that says, "You do you." His goal was to walk from the westernmost point in the U.S. to the easternmost point, and this morning he completed that mission in Maine. Brian Seidlinger caught up with Isaiah this past week and has his story.
I wish there was a more concrete answer, but honestly, it sounded like fun.
With just 60 miles left to go, the obvious question for Isaiah Shields is why? Why walk from his home in Utah to Cape Alva in Washington State to the Quoddy Head Lighthouse in Lubec via Montana, Texas, and Florida, pushing a cart full of supplies and sleeping in a tent while going through 12 pairs of shoes?
Some people have ideas to like restore an old Corvette in their garage. Some people have ideas to start a band with their buddies. I one day had the idea to just walk for a really long time. As far as like why that would be something that sounds appealing to me, I just wanted to see a lot of places. I wanted to take a survey of what like the human experience looks like and see a lot of different lifestyles and come to a better understanding of what it really means to either be an American or be a person. And I figured what better way to do that than to just go everywhere at a pace where you can take it all in, and that was all there was to it.
A lot can be learned on this kind of journey, including about oneself.
You go to like a job and you have to devote a lot of your best waking hours and energy to another task, whereas a lot of those hours are given back to me. And so I've had a lot of time to sort of reflect upon what's worth doing with a human life and what's worth doing with my life. And so I have, in a way, become more aware of other people's time and their generosity and what my needs are and how that reflects on everyone else and how privileged I am to be able to do this.
Unfortunately, there's often a lot left to learn about the places he's been.
Everywhere I go has stories worth seeing and things worth reading about, but I am on foot and I've had to tear myself away from probably over 1,000 cities and towns that deserve more time, but I'm just trying to take it all in.
In the end, Isaiah says the biggest lesson he's learned is one he hopes everyone can take away from his journey across the country without walking even 1 mile in his shoes.
The world is on a good trajectory. You can always find something terrible happening, but we're doing pretty okay.
And that was Brian Seidlinger reporting. If you do want to learn more about Shields' trek, you can go to his Facebook page at Isaiah Glenn Shields to learn more. All right, are you ready for winter? Have you settled in with this idea that it is here to stay? Because I think it is. Isn't that what Breck is telling us? Of course, let's check in with Utah's Weather Authority. Breck Bolton standing by with all the details.
Well, it's here to stay if we look at the temperatures, in that we're going to keep it cold, which we're not depleting the snow that we, of course, got last week, but we're not going to be adding too much to it. Yeah, not a lot of big storms in the forecast, but we're definitely going to keep it chilly as we move ahead. Let's kind of highlight a view from Oakley. Scott Taylor up with his drone, highlighting that winter landscape. Yeah, getting all that snow last week. And again, holding on to the snow. A lot of times in November, if we get that early snow, we warm back up, and then we melt that snow, and we wait for that next storm to come along. But that snow slow to deplete here. And with the ski resorts opening up and with these chilly nights overnight and looking ahead, they'll continue to at least make snow to help keep those ski resorts open and building that snowpack. But we want help from Mother Nature. We're going to be taking a look at that in just a few moments to see if that is a chance. But let's take a look at the official high today in Salt Lake City. 41 degrees on average. Again, we should be in the low 50s. Record for today set back in 1953 at 70 degrees. Looking at your sunset at 5:11. Outside right now, temperatures, it's chilly, already in the 30s here, Salt Lake City through Provo. We've got 20s up through Logan, teens in Evanston this hour. Now, across northern Utah, noticing a little haze, yeah, the cold air, and with areas with some snow on the ground, noticing that a valley inversion setting up. It's not too strong, but noticing slowly that air quality is diminishing. But here's the thing, we're going to keep colder air, especially coming aloft. We got to keep that cold air above coming through so we mix things out. So we'll be looking at air quality, a slight issue moving ahead. We might see in some days moderate concern level, but it doesn't really get too bad because we're going to keep that flow out of the north very cold, even as we look in some of the higher terrain. But air quality forecast, some improvements heading into tomorrow because we brought in a dry, cool front that's been making its move here across the state, which will allow temperatures to remain very cold. In that, from the National Weather Service, we need to talk about some freeze warnings in effect for some of the state, particularly towards southern Utah. But as I mentioned, this cold northerly flow, it's mainly going to be dry, even though it will produce potentially some mountain showers, as we saw a little bit of activity across southwestern Utah today. But speaking of those freeze warnings, it's near Zion National Park that we've got one in effect for tonight. So as you look from Springdale heading over towards area near Zion National Park, that will be an issue. Now for tomorrow, we expand the area, still with a focus in Washington County, as this will be in effect as looking towards tomorrow night through Tuesday morning, and we're incorporating St. George over towards Santa Clara and Hurricane as well. Now, looking at satellite radar, I mentioned the snow showers that we saw earlier on. It was Cedar City over towards Panguitch and over towards Richfield. Those quickly dying off, but it was a concern traveling through some areas along I-15. But again, that's not going to be an issue for tonight and through starting out your morning commute tomorrow. As we've got clear skies here tonight across northern Utah, that cold, dry flow going in effect. Now, we do have some storms that are coming in from Canada, but most of the moisture sliding east of the state. So we'll hang on to the cold, but we don't get the snow, but we've got the chill. Let's take a look at your overnight lows that are mostly clear skies. It's 20s along the Wasatch Front, some teens, Park City over towards west central Utah. Tomorrow, again, very cold, maybe a degree or two colder than what we found today. We've got some sunshine in the forecast and a little haze as well. Now for St. George, it's 50s and warming up slightly, but again, no storms to really impact. We'll kind of hold on to the mid-50s by the middle of the week. Northern Utah, it's 30s to 40s, back into the 30s. Again, we're keeping it cold. No storms here for the next 7 days.
Breck, thanks so much. Straight ahead, RSV and flu continue to be on the rise across the country. What you can do to keep you and your family safe. Plus, some good news when it comes to our economy and getting inflation under control. Is hope on the horizon for winding down those skyrocketing prices we're seeing on everyday items. We'll be right back. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. We're learning just how dangerous RSV can be for children. New data now shows RSV is responsible for an estimated 1 in 50 deaths in otherwise healthy kids under the age of 5 globally. This as hospitals across the U.S. are overwhelmed with both cases of RSV and the flu. Jen Sullivan looks at the latest data and what parents can do to protect your kids.
Babies and infants hooked up to ventilators are becoming an all-too common scene as cases of respiratory syncytial virus, also known as RSV, skyrocket, overwhelming hospitals across the country.
There are no available pediatric ICU beds. There are no available pediatric general care beds.
Massachusetts' largest hospital system declaring a capacity disaster status Thursday as hospitals run out of beds. Similar situations in Michigan and in Georgia. RSV is now responsible for an estimated 1 in 50 deaths in otherwise healthy children under the age of 5 worldwide. And it's the second leading cause of death during the first year of a child's life.
It was incredibly concerning.
Sarah Walick's 10-month-old son was diagnosed with RSV. Fortunately, he wasn't hospitalized, but he did get sick.
He was quite sick. He had a fever, was breathing heavily.
The signs of RSV in infants include shortness of breath, grunting noises, chest caving while breathing, bluish skin, and changes around the lips, tongue, and gums. The surge in RSV cases comes as flu cases are also on the rise. The highest rates found among those 4 and under and 65 and older. The combination in virus numbers further overwhelming staff in hospitals.
Wait times in our emergency departments overall for, again, both adult and pediatric patients are nearing historic highs.
Doctors say the best way to protect yourself is to thoroughly wash your hands, stay home if you're sick, and keep surfaces clean. I'm Jen Sullivan reporting.
Now to some welcome news to talk about. Inflation cooled a little more than expected in October, which means the prices that we pay for everyday items are still high, but those increases are slowing. The news ignited hopes that the Fed's biggest interest rate hikes may be in the rearview mirror. Mike Valerio breaks it down for us.
The headline, better than expected news on inflation as the rate of price increases is still falling from a 4-decade high. New data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics out Thursday show the higher prices we're paying for everyday items slowed further last month, dropping from a peak in June. Economic analyst Rana Farohar says American finances are strong and
We've also now got a report that says inflation is starting to dampen. Boy, that could be game changing for the markets and for the American public in the next couple of years.
Still, analysts note prices in crucial areas remain higher than last year, and people are feeling the pinch.
What's particularly troubling is that the areas where we are seeing the largest and most consistent increases are categories that are absolute necessities, food, energy, and shelter.
As Thanksgiving approaches, food is still getting more expensive, but at a slower pace than earlier this year. There's also the renewed threat of a rail strike in early December, which could cripple the supply chain.
If you have renewed disruptions to the supply chain, that is going to add another element of price pressure that either pushes prices higher or just keeps them from falling like we'd like to see.
The question now, could this preview the end of big interest rate hikes?
The bottom line is, we need to see a sustained moderation in inflation pressures. One in a row is not a streak. We need a long winning streak.
The Fed makes its next rate hike decision on December 14th. I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
Up next, the storm may have moved out, but the recovery process is just beginning. Look at that damage. What people in Florida now have to deal with after Hurricane Nicole swept through. Plus, Election Day starting to turn more into election month. We're going to get you up to date on where the fight for control of Congress stands right now.
Turkish authorities say a deadly bombing in the centre of Istanbul could be a terrorist attack. I'm Kitty Logan in London. More on this coming up.
Welcome back. This week is the scheduled launch of Artemis 1. Have you heard about it? It's an unmanned test flight of the Artemis rocket that promises to take humanity back to the moon and potentially beyond. But few know that without the work of some dedicated Utahns, this launch would never be possible. Fox 13 News reporter Spencer Joseph has a preview for us now of this latest installment of Uniquely Utah, airing later tonight on Fox 13 News at 9.
State Route 83, built high up into the hillside, is a group of people who make space travel a reality.
It's kind of funny to put ranching and rockets together, but literally we are neighbors side by side.
So if it's to the stars you want to go, Northrop Grumman's rocket test facility has got you covered.
Collectively here, we design and build the motor segments. That's the most significant thing that people remember, but we also have design responsibility for all of the other pieces and parts that all come together to make a booster. A lot of defense programs and
we have main engine start.
Obviously the space shuttle program.
Booster ignition and the final liftoff of Discovery.
But with the space shuttle fleet launching for the final time in 2011, 10 years later, it's time for something new. And if you haven't already heard, it's called Artemis.
The Artemis program, right, we're returning to the moon. So Artemis 1 is the first flight. It's a test flight. We'll be able to learn a lot. And we'll be able to take that information and move the program forward.
Matt Meekum is one of those who helped start it all.
For me personally, it's pretty important. I've spent a lot of time, a lot of years. I worked the program from the inception as a design engineer, so I have a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. I like to say my fingerprints are all over this rocket.
That was Spencer Joseph reporting for us. We are taking a look right now at Artemis 1 on the launch pad in Cape Canaveral, Florida. Isn't that cool? If all goes well ahead of time, it's expected to blast off into space on Wednesday. Again, join us tonight at 9 for this latest edition of Uniquely Utah as we explore the Utah connection to this important moment in history.
Fingers crossed, right?
Fingers crossed, and all eyes on the weather for a launch like this one, Brack.
Highly dependent, of course, on the weather. If we're looking at weather conditions here throughout the state, no big issues except the cold temperatures. I want to share a photo coming in on our Facebook page highlighting up at Alta where earlier this morning, look at that sun halo now. When we get ice crystals in the atmosphere and we get that sunlight, it's kind of like a sky prism producing that halo. And that's a beautiful shot there. Up at Alta, highlighting, of course, all the new snow in place. Not adding too much into it over the past couple of days, but very cold in that we're hanging on to the snow, not depleting it rather quickly here across the state. As we look at temperatures outside right now, as mentioned, we're in the 20s, already up through Cache Valley, teens in Evanston through central Utah. Many locations, temperatures in the upper 20s to low 30s. Winds, not an issue. It's calm, but it is cold, as it will be another chilly night with some freeze warnings in place for the cities surrounding Zion National Park. That's definitely an area where temperatures will get down into the 20s. As we did have some snow showers throughout that area from Cedar City down through Zion over towards Panguitch into Kanab. But really over the past hour or two, things really winding down as we'll be looking at clearing conditions even across southern Utah as skies clear right now. So as we take a look at your hour by hour forecast, under mostly clear conditions, temperatures again dropping quickly. We'll be down into the low 30s after midnight with overnight lows down into the 20s. So starting off the week, cold. We're trying to see if any additional winter storms will be on the way. We'll take a look at that coming up in just a few minutes.
World headlines for you right now. At least 6 people were killed, dozens more injured after a bombing in Turkey. Authorities suspect this is a terror attack, though the investigation is still in its early stages. Fox's Kitty Logan reports.
Ambulances rushing to the scene on Sunday in Turkey's largest city after an explosion rocked the main shopping street in the heart of Istanbul. The area was filled with shoppers, tourists and families at the time. No one has claimed responsibility for the bombing, but Turkey's president says that early information suggests a targeted attack.
It would be wrong to say this is undoubtedly a terrorist attack, but the initial developments and initial intelligence from my governor is that it smells like terrorism.
Authorities are reviewing surveillance footage around where the blast took place to search for clues. One camera showed the moment a flash of light and smoke filled the busy street. Cell phone video taken immediately after shows people running from the blast. The country was previously hit by a string of bombings between 2015 and 2017 that killed more than 500 people. Some of those attacks were carried out by the Islamic State, others by Kurdish militants. President Erdogan says that the perpetrators would be held responsible.
Our people can rest assured that the culprits behind the attack will be punished as they deserve.
The US Embassy in Turkey has offered its condolences. In London, Kitty Logan, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, talking more about the election right now, and a crucial victory in Nevada has led to Democrats retaining control of the Senate for the next 2 years. Now all eyes are on who will gain control of the House, which is still up for grabs. Gloria Pesmino gets us up to speed on where the balance of power stands tonight.
This is such a cause for a celebration.
A celebration indeed for Democrats, who will now retain control of the Senate on Capitol Hill. The critical win comes after Nevada Democratic incumbent Catherine Cortez Masto defeated Republican challenger Adam Laxalt after trailing him for days as votes were counted.
We've known this was going to be a tough campaign, but like all of you, I'm a Nevadan, and I know what it takes to deliver for my home state.
We won because we had a really good agenda that we actually passed that helped the American people on things they cared about.
This should have been a huge red wave. It should have been one of the biggest red waves we've ever had because, the President Biden's approval rating was so low.
Democrats managed to hold at least 50 seats in the Senate. The victory comes as a major boost for President Joe Biden. Now the question remains, who will control the House? So far, Democrats hold 204 seats to Republicans' 211. The number needed to control the lower chamber is 218 seats.
Let's just get through the election, okay? They haven't won yet.
As I've said all along, it'd be perilously close. We can win it. Whether we're going to win it remains to be seen.
And we may not find out who wins the House for weeks. As the vote count continues in states like Arizona, California, and Oregon with a large share of mail-in ballots. Gloria Pasmino, Fox 13 News, Utah.
In Georgia, meantime, Democratic Senator candidate, that's Raphael Warnock, and Republican challenger Herschel Walker are facing off again in a runoff December 6th after neither candidate cleared the 50% threshold. A lot of attention will be focused there for the next few weeks. Meantime, in other national headlines, this was just a terrible story this weekend. The National Transportation Safety Board now investigating yesterday's air show accident in Dallas, Texas, that left 6 people dead. The NTSB is asking the public to submit photos and videos of the incident to help piece together what happened.
The fact that we do have a camera or plenty of video, social media videos out there. Unfortunately, many of the general aviation accidents that we see out there, there is no flight data recorder or CVR, and many times there is no video. So it's very difficult for us to determine the probable cause.
That NTSB spokesperson you just heard from says the entire investigation can last between 12 months to 18 months, and that a preliminary report of the accident will be released in the next 4 to 6 weeks. Tesla has announced a voluntary recall of more than 40,000 vehicles that could have a power steering issue. The recall involves Model S and Model X vehicles built between 2017 and 2021. Some motorists have reported their electric cars losing power steering on bumpy roads or after hitting a pothole. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration reports that the defect does not affect steering control itself. Instead, it means the driver has to use more strength to turn the wheel, especially at lower speeds. The fix involves downloading a software update. No injuries have been reported in connection to the recall. When Hurricane Nicole came ashore this week in Florida as a Category 1, few expected it would cause the amount of devastation that it did, particularly in the Daytona Beach area. Many there now looking for new places to live after that storm washed away the beach right out from under their homes. Fox's Kevin Uretsky has that story.
As the remnants of Hurricane Nicole wash out over eastern Canada, hundreds in Florida are still figuring out what to do next after Nicole devastated a stretch of the state's northeast coast. The storm surge ripping away the supports underneath homes on the beachfront.
Basically, all the sand's washed underneath the foundation, and so there's some people that are in a world of hurt.
Many residents who evacuated are now returning to find their homes unsafe to enter. The first November storm to hit the Sunshine State since the 1980s packed a stronger punch than many expected.
All of the pumps and there's like heaters and everything out in the back of the condo are in the ocean. Our 2 fire pits fell off into the ocean. Our pool is hanging on by the stilts.
Dozens of homes, hotels, and condo buildings along the beachfront have been declared uninhabitable. Much of the damage attributed to seawalls that were still in need of repair from the last hurricane.
You really have to go back to Hurricane Ian because that's where all this begins. So during Ian, we had a tremendous amount of beach erosion and put all the properties at risk.
Restoring the beach will likely require a multi-million-dollar investment in replenishing sand that washed away and rebuilding improved seawalls. Kevin Uretsky, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, it's the biggest movie in America right now. We're going to give you an inside look into the sequel to Marvel's Black Panther when we come back. Jeff.
Yeah, coming up in sports, some local players had big games in the NFL today. Kansas City, Chicago, and Germany. And how about Tony Finau? Led by as many as 8 shots today in the final round of the Houston Open. His highlights and post-round reaction are on the way.
Welcome back. Little entertainment news for you right now. The #1 movie in theaters this weekend is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, the highly anticipated sequel to the Marvel superhero flick from 4 years ago, of course starring the late Chadwick Boseman. This new movie raked in $180 million so far at the box office, the best November opening ever. Rick Damigella takes a closer look at the new film.
I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone. Have I not given everything?
Black Panther: Wakanda Forever became more than just a sequel after the unexpected passing of Chadwick Boseman.
We wanted to ramp it up by making it more culturally specific, more detailed, more personal. And even after Chadwick passed away, we stayed the course. I was speaking with him before he passed, and he was excited about the direction that the film was going in.
The actors and their characters had to process the dual loss.
I think it's the entire collaborative cohorts
way of trying to process the confusion around this moment. The confusion around losing Chadwick and the confusion that comes from an unexpected loss.
We were dealing with a terrible tragedy of losing Chadwick and of course then losing T'Challa. And so that shift in the world, her grounding and wanting to protect it just amplified, though she still had her own grief to deal with.
And what is meaningful is the life that he lived. Everything that he showed us, everything that he taught us, every single day, even fighting in complete silence.
Show them who we are.
In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
From historic discoveries to animals in weird places, there were some bizarre stories that made headlines this week. Jeremy Roth breaks those down for us.
Take a look at the week we had. A research team probing the depths of the Atlantic for World War II artifacts instead stumbled upon a 20-foot-long piece of debris from the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. The discovery was made during the filming of the History Channel documentary, The Bermuda Triangle into Cursed Waters. The Challenger shuttle was destroyed shortly after takeoff in 1986, claiming the lives of the crew on board. The discovery was called sobering by the documentary team, which has since turned its findings over to NASA. A fascinating dug-up discovery made in Israel has revealed the earliest known sentence ever written in an alphabet, which is, "May this tusk root out the lice of the hair and the beard." The sentence was found inscribed in the early language of Canaanite on the side of a 3,700-year-old ancient comb, found at a dig site by archaeologists who are describing the relic and its amusing sentiment as, quote, "something very human." A Chilean crime reporter became the victim of foul play during a live report. Nicholas Crum was reporting about a rise in local robberies when a parrot landed on his shoulder and robbed the reporter of one of his wireless earpods. Crum didn't have to wait too long. Eventually, the bad boy birdie dropped the earpod, which is a good thing because this suspect was definitely a flight risk. And if you thought that was the weirdest animal story of the week, take a look at this. TSA agents in Florida discovered a raw chicken stuffed with a firearm in a traveler's bird-brained attempt to smuggle the weapon through airport security. The agency shared images of the poultry-seasoned pistol online, along with a pun-rich post calling the incident a personal foul and a waste of time. For Take a Look at This Week, I'm Jeremy Roth.
Oh, we get it all in there, don't we? All right, we're also talking about your weather with Utah's Weather Authority, Breck Bolton. Okay, I sat at a football game last night. It was so exciting, so much fun.
State championship, right?
State championship. Congrats to Gunnison Valley High being the first ever.
You know, I was watching the Ute game. People in the stands. It was full up through about the fourth quarter.
It started getting a little cold.
Yeah, they got the game. Let's just go home and get warmed up because it is tough to be out there. We're going to need heavy layers as we move through the week because we're not changing the temperature up too much. We're going to keep it cold. Now, we even got a little bit of snow today as I share a photo coming up on our Facebook page. This is Lisa, North Creek. Now, this is just northeast of Beaver now through southwestern Utah. So between, Beaver, Cedar City, down through, not in St. George, but just south of there over towards Kanab. We did have some light snow showers, which did have a little bit of an impact for you traveling along I-15 and over some of those mountain passes. But those showers have pushed away, and that's really one of our best chances of seeing snow here as we move through the upcoming week. Right now in Salt Lake City, mostly clear skies. It's cold. We're at the upper 30s with highs today, only getting up into the low 40s. Now let's take a look where I look on my lawn. I've got to rake some leaves, of course, of the storm last week, knocking down those leaves, trying to find that opportunity where we don't have any issues for any showers here moving through the week. Wind's a little bit of an issue, especially Tuesday through Wednesday. The ground remains dry, but I know for some of you still have snow on the ground, and it's slow to deplete, especially if you're in the shade there. Now, looking at watches and warnings, as mentioned, we do have a freeze warning that will be in effect as we look towards near Zion National Park. So the cities surrounding that area, like Springdale, they're definitely going to see some cold temperatures. And for tomorrow night, through most of Washington County, we'll be looking at hard freeze concerns, as we'll be looking at overnight lows getting down into the mid to upper 20s, and even some locations potentially a little bit colder than that. So we're still under this cold northerly flow. Wrapped in that flow, we're right now bringing in that drier air. Clouds quickly dissipating here across southern Utah, so that threat of some light snow is just not going to be an issue here for tonight. Now, as we give you the wider viewpoint, we've got high pressure off towards the west. With that ridge of high pressure, at least throughout the state, we continue to streamline that cold air all the way from Canada. You know, they say Canadian dry. Well, it's dry air here across the state. Some of the moisture, though, as we do see a series of cold fronts pushing through, most of the storms slide east of the state, even though there are portions of extreme northern Utah, potentially southwest Wyoming, that could get clipped from these cold fronts, maybe producing some light snow showers over the mountains of northern Utah. But as we look at our computer models throughout the rest of the state, it's going to remain dry. Again, as we go from Monday into Tuesday, you see a little blue there over the Uinta Mountains, southwest Wyoming, maybe a few flurries here across the Wasatch Mountains, but not a lot of snow in the forecast. We're keeping the storms away, but we're not going to keep the cold away, as we'll keep temperatures and highs well below average. Now for tonight, mostly clear, overnight lows, at least here along the Wasatch Front, getting down into the 20s. Tomorrow, we're going to be not warming up. Actually, we go in the opposite direction, maybe a degree or two colder than what we saw for today. That means 30s along the Wasatch Front, 20s in Park City, mid to upper 30s through central Utah, low 50s in St. George. Now, where we're lacking in the storms, we're not going to see much in cloud cover here for St. George, and we're going to be slowly warming up as we go from the low to mid 50s. So not a big step in temperatures, where typically we should be close to 60 degrees here in St. George for our average temperature for the middle of November. Now for the Wasatch Front, these are temperatures that we typically experience middle to the latter end of December. So yeah, this winter storm that came through last week, bringing the cold air, and we're just not letting go, as we'll find those temperatures just hovering near 40 degrees. And as you look over the next 7 days, yeah, a few days with cloudy conditions, maybe a breeze here and there Wednesday and Thursday, but no snowflakes there, no showers. We're keeping it dry, as it looks like over the next 7 days, we just do not see any big storms.
Well, Tony Finau had a great week on the PGA Tour just 1 week after missing the cut in Mexico. Finau shot a 62 in the second round in Houston to help take a commanding 4-shot lead into the final round. Said he felt a little off when he started his final round, but he putted great this week, and that helps him settle in. Rolls in the birdie at number 2. Yeah, that got him going. Then on the 5th hole, his approach shot from about 90 yards out. And he hit a controlled wedge that landed on a great spot. Spins back to set up another birdie to extend his lead to 6 shots. He capped his first 9 holes with 2 great putts. First on the 8th, a 39-footer drops in. Yeah, he was excited about that one. He was 18 under par with a 7-shot lead. Then on the 9th hole, had a big breaker from 19 feet, and he read it perfectly. Drops in for another birdie to get to 19 under par and an 8-shot lead. He gave away some of that lead with 3 bogeys on the back 9, but it did not matter. Had a 4-shot lead on the final hole, and he just about made another birdie putt to end it. Oh, so close there. A lot of relief in that smile. His wife and son flew to Houston today to be there with him. And he tapped in for par to shoot a final round 69 to win by 4 shots at 16 under par. It's his 5th career PGA Tour title and his 3rd in the last 7 starts. He's never experienced having such a big lead on the final day of the tournament, so he was not sure how he would handle it.
When I teed off this morning, I felt a little off, honestly. It's not easy sleeping on the lead, and I didn't know if I had it in me, but you just take it a shot at a time, and it's a place I've never been before. I've never had an 8-shot lead on the final round on tour, so it's an interesting mindset. Yeah, a little bit of don't screw it up, or maybe if we hit some good shots, we can extend this lead. So overall, this was a special week. I won this golf tournament from start to finish. Things just went my way, and it was a week to remember.
In the NFL, former BYU Cougar Jamal Williams, 4th quarter touchdown for the Lions against the Bears. That put Chicago up 1. Williams had 59 rushing yards, including this one for 7 yards on a big first down to clinch the 31-30 win for the Lions. The Seahawks and Buccaneers played the first game in Germany. This is former Utah Ute and Brighton Bengal Cody Barton picking off Tom Brady. He also had 9 tackles for Seattle, but Tom and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers won at 21-16. Jaguars took on the Chiefs. Kansas City had it in the red zone in the first quarter, but there's a fumble, and former Utah Ute Devin Lloyd picks it up for Jacksonville. He also had 3 tackles, but the Chiefs came out on top of this one, 27-17. Jazz are playing right now in Philadelphia. We'll have those highlights and post-game reaction tonight on the sports page, plus college football, a wrap-up of that, and the first week of college basketball.
Pretty fun.
Yeah.
You got it all for us.
I bet it was fun watching Gunnison win that state championship yesterday.
It was really fun. I got a boy on that team, so I've been watching them all season long. And it's been so fun to watch the team come together.
Yeah.
Play a football can be so exciting.
Oh, that had to have been great. Congratulations.
Thank you. Isn't that fun?
8-man, first time they won a state championship. First ever state championship.
Yes,
in the
this new 8-man league opening up some opportunities for these smaller
That's
schools.
awesome.
Yeah. Hey, we'll be right back with more of your news. That's right. Here we go. Leaving you with this little bit. Check this out. Jeff Bezos giving Dolly Parton $100 million. The country legend is the latest recipient of Jeff Bezos' Courage and Civility Award. Parton, known for her philanthropy. During the COVID-19 pandemic, she donated $1 million to COVID-19 vaccine research efforts. Bezos, the founder and former head of Amazon, has said the prize money has no strings attached. Isn't that cool? She'll probably just turn it back over and give it to all of her charities. So nice thing to hear about. Hey, have a great night. We'll see you tonight at 9.